Welcome to the Black Box App Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Johnson, president of the diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. Really excited to be here today. Man, we operating and moving in the app. And by that, I mean we really moving because we have my man with me today, Eugene Edw. He is here to basically do what he does, man, to talk this diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff with a slant towards Black men. And you know that's what we do on the Black Box App Podcast. So let me introduce you all today to Eugene. Eugene, how's it going, my friend?
Doing well, Kenneth. How are you? Glad to be here and glad to see that out.
Man, I'm excited to have you on today. We've held some conversations just about the work that you're doing. I'm amazed by it. I'm impressed by it. But I think what's even more impressive as I kind of think back on some of your career journey is the kind of way that you, I'm not going to say pivoted, but repositioned the way you do this work. So if you don't mind, walk our audience through Eugene's career journey. And I mean, take us back to the HBCU days. Take us back.
Oh man, wow, you really challenged me there. But it goes back to, as you mentioned, I attended an HBCU. Actually, I'm an alum of two HBCUs, Alabama A&M University. So I got to pay love and homage to the Hill in Huntsville. And of course, my beloved Hampton University, the home by the sea down there in Hampton, Virginia. So, going back to being a young buck back in, mid 80s on the campus of Alabama A&M University, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. That was my aspiration. I wanted to go to school, major in political science, and I wanted to advocate for truth and justice for all. But I quickly understood that practicing law is not something I wanted to do, and it wasn't for me. And I found myself a little bit confused and no real guidance outside of law that I thought about since I was probably 5. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I took another path, and that was to go into the military. I was involved in ROTC at Alabama A&M and excelled in that. And then I decided that I wanted to go ahead and enlist, and that would give me some time to develop a little bit more discipline, structure, and, with many career opportunities in the Army at that point in time, about 260 some odd career opportunities, I decided that along this pathway, I would be inspired or encouraged. And, from that, the military was a great opportunity for me. It was actually during the military, after doing a whole bunch of combat related things, Ranger, Jump Master, Forward Observer, and I got led into even military police officer, but ultimately I got selected into what would shape my future career. And I was in the top 2% of my peer group. So I was excelling in military service, getting promoted very quickly. And when you're in the top 2% of your peer group, one of two things happens. You're either selected to be a drill sergeant or you're selected to be a recruiter. And for me, what it turned out was that year, I just knew I was going to be a drill sergeant and be able to replicate the first 20 minutes of Full Metal Jacket on a busload of new recruits and have a good time. All the stuff I accomplished in my military career up to that point, I just knew that was my destiny. And I was excited for it, or gung-ho, as we used to say. And as it turns out, the selection criteria went by the last digit of your Social Security number. And even numbers went to drill sergeant school, and odd numbers, and my Social Security number ends in an odd number, went to recruiting school. And man, I was livid. I couldn't believe that because—
You're kidding me. That's the selection. That's how it works.
That was the selection criteria. And so hopefully it's changed now, but that's how it was back in my day. And when you're DA selected, DA means Department of the Army selection, you can't get out of it. You're committed to it. And you better do it to the best of your ability. Otherwise, it could adversely influence your career. But what that did is it laid the foundational components for what I ultimately became, obviously, a diversity professional, and like yourself, working in executive search for a number of years. The Army recruiting course is one of the best sales schools in the world. And it teaches you a number of foundational components or pillars that allow you to understand how to present offers, overcome objections, how to close candidates, and all the various things that ultimately developed my skill set. And from that, when it was time for me to get out of the Army, I landed my first job as an HR generalist at a major children's hospital in Norfolk, Virginia. Learn comp and benefits and EEOC and all the things that you do as a generalist. And from that, I decided I no longer wanted to be in HR, in all honesty. So I moved out of it and moved into other areas. Wireless technologies was just kicking off. And, you only had about 20% of the US population that has cell phones. And, many of your listeners aren't like me. Back in our day, cell phones were large bricks or bags, man. I used to walk around the mall with a bag on my shoulder, and there was only one cell tower in the city. But I decided this is the wave of the future. So I want to get into the technology aspect of it and learn a little bit more about that, and moved into business to business sales, and ultimately ended up managing business to business and indirect sales for large markets. And, unfortunately for me, it was due to downsizing that I had to do a self-assessment and understand really what is it that I'm good at and where are my passions at this point. And having that introspective moment in my life, I realized that it really was recruiting. And so I ended up coming back to recruiting in various capacities. I worked with L3 Communications. Okay. I went on to launch, as I mentioned earlier, my own successful diversity search firm, Diversity Search Partners. Grew it to the point that I had 5 offices across the country and 43 employees ultimately. And I was fortunate enough to leave that kind of an early retirement, move into operations based on other military experience. But then I even found that it kind of helped me transition or segue again back into HR. Even though I was in operations in a quality capacity, it was in the wake of George Floyd's incident. Just a year ago, we talk about May of 2020, that this occurred, and our CEO cascaded an open letter to all of our employees. It allowed me to participate in the commissioning of our first affinity group or employee resource group called Black Matters. There were only 6 Black mid-level managers within our organization, so it really wasn't hard to form that. But having my HR background, I wanted to be a champion and an advocate for making sure the playing field is level. And what I mean by that is pay equity. What I mean by that is equitable opportunities and inclusiveness in our meetings, in our boardroom, and all across the organization. And man, that allowed me to reposition myself and receive a position that was created for me as a diversity leader, the first of such within our company, Watts Water Technology. So I'm proud of that. I almost feel like Michael Corleone every time I get out, they pull me back in to HR, that is. But I love it. And this is really where my passion lies. So that's the genesis.
Man, that's an amazing journey. And it probably, I'm of the belief that it took you exactly where you're supposed to be. I think just through conversations that I've had with you in the past, your understanding of the importance of your role and how you can have real impact on a very large organization at multiple levels is really interesting. When we spoke the other day and you pulled up your reporting and you were kind of just showing me kind of just different things that you were doing and how there was a strategy to the work. And I thought that was extremely impressive. And I often tell people at all career levels, you have to have a strategy for the next step in your career, right? And where you're going. And that's going to lead me to this question. A platform like blkbox that provides resources on a lot of different levels to career professionals, why do you believe that's important? I know when I first told you about it, you got excited, and I just love to know, why do you believe that type of resource is important? And also, if you can kind of speak on just why you believe individuals should have a strategy to their own careers.
Well, first I'd be remiss, Kenneth, if I didn't just say, I love the app and I love the efforts that you put into this and what it provides. So, to speak more on your question, I almost asked that with a rhetorical, or answer that with a rhetorical question. What is it out there that exists for us exclusively? I pause so that the listeners can digest that and contemplate for a minute. And I'll follow up with another rhetorical question: is who encourages you to grow into your crown? We live in a society that not often us as Black men are told what we can be. We're often told what we can't, particularly if you grew up in my era. You know, I can't tell you how many times when I said I wanted to be an attorney that someone said, well, this would be a better option for you, or you should think about this, solely because of the color of my skin. And that still exists today. So, you know, let's not tap the ass around that. So I go back to that rhetorical question: what is it currently that exists for us? And so to people who are listening, part of your strategic plan is covered by everything that's conveyed in this app. You know, job opportunities. This gives us an opportunity for employers to even list jobs, and for you to search, and connecting with people who are looking for you, people like you. That's most important, because as we talk about the DEI space, there's something that we often leave out, and that's a B, that stands for belonging. And that belonging aspect could be something simple to us, but still significant. You know, I had an opportunity to go into a number of facilities across the country and across the globe, as a matter of fact. But when I talk about the continental United States, oftentimes it's just being able to connect with someone else to find out where I could get a haircut or get a good meal if I'm looking for soul food. Not so much anything work related. And that's the kind of thing that this offers, not advice on where to get a haircut, but it connects you with employers who are looking for people like you, so that when you join an organization, there's a true sense of belonging. And it's providing equitable opportunities, and it's listing events, most importantly, that you can attend to help improve not only your professional development, but your personal development, based on some of the speakers that you have there, to give motivating words and outreach to individuals who, let's face it, we all need it. We all can use a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. And so that's really what I love about that app. And then those are the three focal points that answer your question. You develop your plan, make sure you connect with a coach. A coach is someone that, you know, you commonly equate with sports or something of that nature, but in that same concept, in that same vein, this is someone that's going to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, what the outcome should be, and how to navigate that so you have your own opportunities for growth and success. Make sure you have a mentor and define that. That mentor doesn't have to look like you, but I can tell you from my own personal experiences, there are tremendous benefits when that mentor understands your culture and the roadway that you have to navigate. You know, our pathways are different. There's a difference in a privileged pathway versus a pathway for those of us who are Black men or Black women, for that matter. And so connecting with a mentor who understands first how to navigate those obstacles, who has accomplished what it is you're looking to accomplish in some aspects, maybe not in the same industry or sector, but to help you understand the compromises that you'll need to make, the bureaucracy or the political aspect and the relationships you have to develop. That all helps you understand how to navigate that pathway appropriately and help you establish success. And then finally, I say this more importantly than anybody else, a sponsor. Because unlike those who are privileged, the door is rarely open for us. Pause there just for a second so for people to think about what is it Eugene's trying to say. But what I mean by that is, rarely for us is there that country club sense of privilege. You know, in few companies can someone say, Kenneth is my guy, and I want to bring him in because I know him. That doesn't constantly or consistently happen for us as Black males or Black women. And so we need someone to literally open the door for us, even if we can just stick a big toe in. As long as the door is open and we get in there, and that sponsor allows us to take part in meetings, events, speaking engagements, strategy planning sessions, you know, without having that access, we don't develop the skills. And that's often why we're disqualified from opportunities. But that's also an excuse that many corporations have to say that they can't find the talent. The talent exists, but you also have to make an investment in terms of time and financial, let's say, to help grow those skill sets and decrease those gaps of giving people like us an opportunity to show what we can do. And so that's the benefit of this app, is it encourages. And, you know, again, to answer your question, those are the three things: coaching, mentorship, and sponsorship. Develop those as part of your strategic plan. You'll lay the pathway for success.
You know what, I appreciate that. I'm going to kind of go off script here just a little, because I want you to speak about this, because I know you do it extremely well. You know, I always share that networking is a vital component to someone's not only career progression, but job search in general. So as you're seeing some of the different ways that people can kind of get on your radar, get on the radar of your talent acquisition team, do you have any suggestions for individuals that may be out here in a job search right now and they're just struggling to find ways to connect with individuals that they believe will sincerely give them an opportunity, or at least strategically look at their information with the hopes of, you know, offering guidance? Any advice?
So there are a number of social platforms that are out there. I'm going to start with that. Mind what you post publicly, okay? Whether it be Twitter, Facebook, or Meta, or whatever they call it themselves these days. You know, you can put lipstick and a skirt on a pig, it's still a pig, my grandmother used to say. So, and anything else, any other platform, mind what you post. I understand everybody's freedom of expression. I understand everybody's individuality, but that footprint digitally stays indefinitely. And it can adversely impact you. And most often for those of us who are underrepresented minorities, particularly Black men, in environments where people are intimidated by Black men more than any other culture, that will adversely impact you. So be conscious of what you post. Now, to expand on that point, take advantage of social platforms as well. You know, LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, blkbox, everything else, and present yourself in a very professional manner. Exercise integrity, don't embellish, be clear about what your goals and objectives are. But most importantly, utilize these platforms to establish your professional presence in your profile. And when you speak to networking, man, it's simply planting the seeds. Reach as many contacts as you possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean arbitrarily send friend requests to everybody on the network. You know, you'll need 5 million friends. But what you do need are people who could assist you in connecting or interfacing with other individuals who are of like mind or like thought processes. What you do need are individuals who will, going back to what I said, provide coaching. Even if you don't know them, you're seeing coaching through their post or information that they're sharing, almost providing some mentorship in some aspects through their post and information that they're sharing. And this allows you to understand where you need to focus your efforts. More importantly, and it's kind of cliche to say this, but we've all heard, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. So grow that network, plant that seed, water it, and as that network grows, you'll reap the harvest, because now you'll have access to people like Kenneth. You'll have access to other Black individuals who are VPs, C-suite executives, directors across organizations, who again are looking for people like you, but it won't happen unless you grow your professional network.
You know, it's really interesting. So with some of our coaching clients, and even when we do career workshops, we speak about like the rule of 30 for us, right? So take a platform like LinkedIn and go in and connect with, you know, 10 individuals that are currently in the role that maybe you're looking to get into, right? And then also connect with 10 companies that hire individuals in that space, just to follow them, to kind of see what's going on. But then connect with 10 SMEs, subject matter experts, that you believe are providing really good content on the space you're looking to get into, right? Or the space that you're currently in. And then try to connect through and just start connecting the dots as opportunities come around. Now, these 10 companies, I suggest they're companies that you're interested in working for, right? Because once you start building a network, even at the company level, people can refer you to a Eugene, right? And then in turn, he may connect with you and then refer you to one of his recruiters and or talent acquisition members, team members. And then you're coming almost with a referral, right? Because they're going to circle in and say, all right, Eugene sent me this resume. I probably want to follow up on this, right? So there's always ways to kind of, I don't want to say hack the system, but I think a lot of times you can see the fruit of your labor really quickly if you have a strategy to it. So I don't want to keep focusing in on strategies, but I love the information you shared about the coach, the mentor, and the sponsor, and explaining that through, because I think it's really important that people operate on all three planes.
Man, what you said is 100% correct. And if I can just expand on one point there, as you talk about applying and referencing or following those, I shouldn't say applying, but referencing those companies that you want to work for, you reminded me of what I used to tell some executive level candidates during my search days, and that is apply. So once you select those 10 companies, another way to expand your professional network within those companies that you have self-identified that you want to work for is apply for positions. Now, what does that mean when you're applying? Well, first off, man, you're putting your name out there. You're showing that you're serious about the company. And if you're lucky enough to be screened or land an interview, of course, they're going to ask you questions about what do you know about the company and what your skills and abilities are, goals and objectives that you'd like to accomplish, and what you actually have accomplished from a performance-based standpoint. And now you've put in the mindset of hiring managers, recruiting professionals, who Kenneth really is and what he can do. And to your point, yes, they can refer you, but most importantly for you, you're overcoming that fear of interviewing. You understanding what your worth is, because if you get to a point where an offer is extended or they're communicating salary range, then you know definitively what your worth is. And listen, worst case scenario, you might have multiple offers on the table, and that's not a worst case scenario. I love to have options on the table that I could sort through and say, I like this one better than this one.
Always.
And so there's a benefit to that. When we're talking about network, you just reminded me of how you can strengthen that network internally as well. So I encourage everybody about every 6 months, just put your name out there and go through some interviews and see what your worth is.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I have another question for you as we kind of work towards the close, but I'd like for you to kind of give this some thought for me and just kind of expand on it. As you look at your career advancement, right? What advice do you have at these three levels for individuals? So entry level individuals, mid-level and senior level individuals, as far as it concerns our responsibility, not only in the workplace, but just within the communities that we kind of exist in.
Man, that's a good question. So what I would probably have to say to entry level individuals is something that you heard me touch point on earlier. And the fact that I wanted to be an attorney, but I ended up being a diversity advocate. Understand that your ideal career or opportunity or pathway may have many different detours or routes, and understand that your ideal opportunity may not look like the one that you're defining today. And so be open to expanding your knowledge. Be open to exploring different industries or functional areas of a business. And don't say, no, that's not for me because I want to do this. Yeah, you might have it all figured out, but that's very few individuals who at a very young age or at early points in their career have it all figured out. Also be mindful of, I'm going to say, your elders. And when I say elders, I'm speaking of the elder statesmen or women who have walked the path that you look to accomplish. Understand what their advice is and be disciplined enough to take heed to some of the advice that they give.